that are coming back with another video. So it looked like Kevin Stefanski is turning heads down in Atlanta, man. He made some big time moves in free agency. Y'all, we got to talk about this. So if you guys have not heard the news that has been circling and going wild all over the internet involving the Atlanta Falcons, I'm here to tell you, we have to talk about this. So the Falcons add some juice to their secondary. Atlanta lands safety Sidney Brown from the Eagles in a pick swap. And Sidney Brown has 9 career starts, 2 interceptions, and yes, went 99 yards to the house. Now, the full details is disclosed by ESPN, man. Brown is like one of them guys, man. He was fourth, number 122, sixth, and number 215. Low-risk move for the Browns, man. Let's check out this article that has come out explaining this trade and letting us know exactly how it went down. Falcons turns heads with unexpected trade, bro. The Atlanta Falcons agreed to trade with the Philadelphia Eagles for safety Sidney Brown, according to the latest NFL news from ESPN insider Adam Schefter. Goes on to say the Falcons-Eagles trade. ESPN, Falcons and Eagles swap 4th and 6th round picks. So now the Falcons is definitely in a rebuilding process, acquiring these picks. From my understanding, they was looking spooky in the draft process. They ain't really had no picks, but they definitely picked up some. So in essence, the Eagles move up into 2 separate rounds of the 2026 NFL Draft, and the Falcons add former 3rd round selection and safety to the secondary. Not a bad deal for the Falcons, man. A lot of people was definitely talking about this being a big-time power move for the Falcons, and I have to say, bro, Kevin Stefanski made it happen, dog. He definitely did. We can't hate on him. This was a big-time move. I ain't gonna lie. It definitely was, dog. Now, with that being said, the Atlanta Falcons put out some content on their YouTube channel talking about this upcoming season and talking about their free agency process because they going to have all eyeballs on them. The Atlanta Falcons is going to be one of the biggest storylines in all of the yeah, man, it's going to be very interesting. Let's check out what they got to say on their YouTube channel. Let's roll it.
End Austin Hooper, offensive lineman Corey Levin, defensive tackle LaCale London, defensive end Azeez Ojulari, quarterback Tua Tagovailoa, defensive end Cameron Thomas, linebacker Channing Tindall, not Channing Tatum, defensive lineman Chris Williams, and wide receiver Olamide Zaccheaus. So please check out our free agency tracker on AtlantaFalcons.com where you can kind of keep up to date with all of those news and notes. But Tori, what's your overall reaction to kind of that long list that I just read out?
Yeah, no, I think that my main takeaway was I don't think I was expecting this volume of signees in the first wave of free agency. I think kind of going into this free agency period, it kind of reminded me a little bit of the 2021 offseason where it felt like, okay, you don't have as much money to play with in free agency and you still have holes to fill, but you're looking at guys probably on like a shorter contract, a cap-friendly contract, which is basically what the Falcons did. But the volume of having 16 different players joining up in a matter of like 5 days holistically is like was not at all the direction that I thought things were going to go. I was pleasantly surprised. I also thought it was really nice, and we've had the chance to sit down with a lot of these guys, but getting to see some like old familiar faces. I know for us, like getting the chance to sit down with Azeez Ojulari and Channing Tindall, some UGA guys, but also getting to see Austin Hooper again, getting to see Olamide Zaccheaus again, people who you've already kind of built relationships with, and you had the chance to talk about Matt Ryan and his new role as president of football with 2 individuals who caught passes from him. Like, there are just some really cool storylines that I think came out of this free agency period that were really exciting to dive into.
Yeah, and I should say that you will hear on the back end of this episode conversations with 3 of the newest Falcons, including Olamide Zaccheaus. I thought that was a great conversation that we had. And I should say we are recording this on Wednesday, so there is a chance that between now and the time it reaches your ear balls, that there are a couple more moves have been made. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, you mentioned 2021. I was thinking back to like 2015, Dan Quinn's first year. And I think there are a few things, right? When you have a new coaching staff, a new regime coming in, oftentimes you want to go get guys that you're familiar with, right? I think that helps you build the culture in the locker room. They understand, they're familiar with just what to expect with kind of the new leadership. But it's also interesting to me that the similarities between this year and 2021 specifically are the relatively limited cap space that you're working with. And did you ever go to Chuck E. Cheese as
I
a
did.
kid? Yeah?
I wasn't allowed to, though, very often because
You weren't allowed to?
Yeah, because every time I went, I would get sick afterwards.
Okay.
So it was
the ball pit got you?
Yeah, like just the germs, like the kid germs. And so every time, and so it became, once I got a little bit like, I don't know, like 7 or 8 years old, my mom and dad were like, you literally get sick every time you go. We're not going. I'm sorry.
Gotta build up that immune system.
I mean,
get some vitamin C.
Yeah, that's honestly, maybe COVID started at Chuck E. Cheese. Like that was the
honestly,
epicenter
maybe
of
that's
COVID.
what there's 2 C's Chuck E. Cheese, right? Like COVID. I don't know.
I don't know. Conspiracy theory.
But the reason I bring that up is like what this has kind of reminded me, and again, a lot of the times where it seems like they have limited cap space, I feel like they almost make the most moves, right? And so it's almost like when you don't have enough tickets to compile to like go for that top shelf item, the gigantic stuffed bear or whatever, you're like, all right, give me the Chinese finger trap, give me the little plastic top, give me X, Y, and Z, right? And that's kind of what this feels like, is that they are really targeting some guys who maybe other teams at this point in time they have their eyes on who's the biggest name, big ticket players. And so that maybe limits overall the scope of what they can do, because they're compiling their resources to go after the top guy at each thing. And the Falcons are saying, all right, we know what this guy can do. We think he really fits this team. He adds good depth. And that's really been, I think, the theme of this free agency.
Yeah, I also think, too, and this is something Ian Cunningham even said in his presser last Friday, was he made mention of guys who had been on the up and up. Like they had really fast starts, hot starts, but then injuries kind of derailed them, and they're kind of coming off of those injuries. I think of someone like Samson Ebukam. I think of like Azeez Ojulari. Even, I mean, throw in Tua in there as well. Like I think some guys who are trying to come off of injuries in the last 2 to 3 years had great production right when they first entered the league, and now they're working their way back, trying to show that they can get back on track in their careers as veterans in this league. And I think that's kind of a through line I think you see too with some of these guys, like coming here to Atlanta on those like 1-year prove-it deals to set themselves up for a better future in the league. And I think that was something that even Ian Cunningham talking about, that was, I honestly think that was in the back of his mind too, from the way that he was talking on Friday, that those were the type of guys that have something to play for, and they wanted them here.
Yeah, and I think it speaks highly of Atlanta as well, that these guys chose Atlanta to come and say, all right, if I'm going to prove it somewhere, I like Atlanta to give me a good opportunity to do just that. But you mentioned, we heard from Ian Cunningham. I can't really remember the GM kind of talking early in free agency or as free agency's been ongoing. So that was really refreshing to see that he was willing to kind of open up and answer some questions from the media. Was there anything that he said during that kind of press conference that really stood out to you? I
mean, it has to be the whole Tua conversation. It has to be the quarterback conversation. I think
which you wrote about.
Right, which I wrote about on AtlantaFalcons.com. Go check it out. But I do think that
So that is the latest on the Atlanta Falcons free agency debate, man. I want to know you guys' thoughts down in the comment section. Keep them bills on. I will be back with more content, man. Until next time, shake the haters off. I'm out of here, bro.